We're coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios. This is Prime News on SABC 3. Here are the stories making headlines.
South Africa cannot create laws specifically for Elon Musk.
Political parties say the easing of regulations by the Minister of Communications cannot be done without the approval of Parliament.
Don't worry about leaders of black political parties that say they do not want unity with MK.
MK Party Secretary General has labelled black political parties opposed to collaboration with the MK Party as empty shells.
We found the 6 charred bodies under the rubble. So the youngest being a toddler of 1.5-year-old.
And the family of the 6 people who died in the fire this morning in Marikana in Ekurhuleni say that they are left beyond devastated. Good evening and a warm welcome to Prime News on 3. I am Paulette Now. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let's begin first with this story leading the news tonight. Umkhonto Wesizwe Member of Parliament Colin Makhubela says the easing of regulations by the Minister of Communications Solly Malatsi cannot be done without the approval of Parliament. Makhubela, who recently wrote to the Minister opposing the gazetted Regulation 17.8 under the State Information Technology Agency Act, says Malatsi must retract an unlawful and illegal regulation.
Is brewing over the potential easing of regulations by Communications Minister Solly Malatsi over Starlink. Starlink is a network of satellites operated by Elon Musk's SpaceX, providing satellite internet access coverage to a number of countries, including neighboring Botswana, Lesotho and Mozambique.
They've got about 8,000 of these satellites that really blanket the Earth and just allows you to connect to the internet in remote areas, providing low latency, high-speed connectivity.
On Friday, Malatsi gazetted a policy in which broad-based black economic empowerment will be eased to accommodate such companies. Member of the official opposition who serves in Parliament's Communications Portfolio Committee says these regulations will never be approved without the buy-in of legislators.
It cannot be done without the approval of Parliament, let me put it that way, because the legislature, the acts, this is a function of Parliament, and we have an oversight role as legislators and in our committees to oversee.
South Africa cannot create laws specifically for Elon Musk. We know that even with the World Cup, the amendment of the legal framework had to do with what is good for South Africa.
Today, a tender is given in White House without advertisement, where Rupert stands up and says, why is Elon Musk, Starlink, not given an opportunity in South Africa?
Natasha Piri, SABC News, Johannesburg.
MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu has labelled black political parties opposed to collaboration with the MK Party as empty shells. The EFF and ANC were dealt a severe blow electorally by the MK Party in KwaZulu-Natal at the polls last year. EFF leader Julius Malema has vowed that his party and the MK Party would not unite.
The EFF and the MK Party are not going to join forces anytime soon, as the EFF feel betrayed by the MK Party under former President Jacob Zuma. This, according to Malema, who believes the MK Party is not genuine in its call for unity of so-called black political parties.
Whether Trump says the same thing about the two of us, we don't care. We must never be tempted to unite with the agents who want to destroy the EFF. If Zuma battled unity of black people, why did he form MK when there was EFF?
MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu came out guns blazing against leaders of parties refusing to unite with the MKP.
Comrades, don't worry about leaders of black political parties
that say they do not want unity with MK. We are going to unite voters and then them and leave them alone as leaders.
The MK party wants the EFF and other political parties to form a bloc, but Malema has stood firm against handing over the economic freedom fighters to Zuma's party. Samkele Masego, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The family of the 6 people who died in the fire in the early hours of this morning in the Marikana informal settlement in Ekurhuleni say they are disappointed by the delayed response of the emergency services. Neighbors who were responding to the tragedy say they woke up to the blaze and traumatic calls in the early hours, but the fire had already ripped through the structure.
To the winter season, the aftermath of the fire that gutted this structure evident in the devastation.
We found the 6 charred bodies under the rubble. So the youngest being a toddler of 1.5 years old, and the oldest being the father at the age of about 47 as per information received. So unfortunately they burned beyond recognition.
Mourners flocked to the Phahla family home. The grief-stricken family left shattered.
We're just devastated. As we all know, as viewers know, if you lose a family member, you become in a state of mind that you cannot even explain. But service delivery has to be the #1 issue when it comes to issues like this, because we waited for the fire department for over an hour. So unfortunately, that's how the state of our country is in right now.
When emergency services arrived, 6 family members had already lost their lives. Community members expressed unhappiness with the delayed response.
It took time. I got that report, but it is solely because they got a report late, not because they dragged their feet. The disaster management can never do that. And in many areas, they champion their work. The department is for that, and they are always ready to serve.
We have immediately contacted SABC to at least give us a preliminary report regarding the cause of the fire, so that we can be able to access a site and then clear it and immediately rebuild, so that the family can be able to utilize it for the burial purposes.
The Ekurhuleni government is looking at ways to support the bereaved family. Meanwhile, South Africans are urged to take extra caution when handling heating devices as the winter freezing temperatures set in. Patricia Fasache, SABC News, at the Marikana informal settlement in Ekurhuleni.
Welcome back. We now continue with matters pertaining to crime, starting first in the courts. Dr. Albertina Luthuli, the eldest daughter of the late ANC President General Chief Albert Luthuli, has told the Pietermaritzburg High Court that more than 6 decades after her father's death, the family hopes to finally get closure. She's testifying in the ongoing inquest into her father's death. Luthuli died in July 1967 after reportedly being struck by a goods train.
A moment 93-year-old Dr. Albertina Luthuli has longed for close to 6 decades, the opportunity to give testimony on the tragic death of her father after years of petitioning by her family to reopen the inquest. On the stand, she told the court that till this day there were many questions on the circumstances surrounding her father's death. On the events leading to Luthuli's death, Dr. Luthuli said her family was convinced that her father was hit over the head by someone while he was holding onto the rails of the railway bridge. She further explained to the court how she had visited the accident scene and didn't find it messy and bloody as she expected.
I expected to find a lot of blood spread all over the place. What I expected to find at the scene when somebody has been hit by a train was simply not there.
Dr. Luthuli also remarked on the political climate at the time, with Luthuli occupying the position of the President General of the ANC. She told the court that her father was labelled a terrorist by the apartheid government. Due to his status and popularity, she was of the view that the regime wanted to permanently remove him.
He had received the prestigious internationally and highly respected Nobel Peace Prize in 1960 or 61. This resulted in serious condemnation by the government of the day of both the award being given to Baba and that the Nobel Peace Prize Committee had lost its credibility by awarding it to a terrorist.
Dr. Luthuli is expected to continue her testimony on Tuesday. I am Mhlongo, SABC News, Peter Maritzburg.
Please note that the following report contains content that may be upsetting to some viewers. Violence between local and foreign nationals in Addo in the Eastern Cape has left at least 4 people dead and 10 hospitalized. It is alleged that several foreign nationals murdered 22-year-old Yohane September during a fight at a tavern in the Valencia area on Saturday night. The locals then retaliated on Sunday, leading to the deaths of 3 other people.
A night of fun turned bloody in Addo in the Eastern Cape this past weekend. Residents say weapons such as axes, machetes and knives were used in the attacks between locals and foreign nationals. About 200 foreign nationals were forced to seek refuge at the local police station.
They were running up and down, they were beating people. So we decided to come and stay here by the police station.
We are fearing for our lives. There are also children here. We do not have money to go back home.
One of the foreign nationals ran to a resident's house for safety.
He came into the kitchen, bleeding excessively, and then he ran out of my house. He kept running, and I don't even know where he is right now.
The father of the deceased has shared the chilling moments before his son's passing.
I heard the people talking what happened, how he was stabbed and how he cried and running around.
Police are investigating 4 murder cases, including the one of a local resident who was murdered on Saturday, with 10 attempted murder cases.
Nandi Bablaki, SABC News, Addo.
The community of Tukomsrus in Randfontein on the West Rand is living in fear as gangs in the area continue to terrorize them. The residents say the once peaceful area turned into a war zone some 3 years ago with the rise of gangs known as the Varados and Umbrellas. They accuse police of failing to protect them against the rival gangs.
Nicola Fourie says she lost her 15-year-old son to gang violence. He was fatally shot, allegedly by a gang in Tukomsrus in March.
I feel that it was very, very cold and unreasonable for someone from somewhere to think that a 15-year-old boy's life is worth 7 shots.
This 27-year-old who does not want to be identified is another victim of gang violence. A gathering with friends in April ended in horror when members of the Umbrellas gang allegedly fired shots at them.
I was the unlucky one. They shot about 9 shots on me. And I don't know how did I make it, how did I survive those 9 shots.
The 2 gangs are allegedly involved in a turf war. When their battles start, residents say no one in Tukomsrus is safe.
We were sitting in our yard at the back, and a bullet was flying over our heads, me and my husband.
Activists say the fear in the area is palpable.
Why is arrests not being made? And this is not even young men, fully adult young men that you can say, they are committing these crimes. They are using the younger ones.
Residents have expressed a lack of confidence in the police. However, Gauteng police insist that they are not just standing by.
The anti-gang unit commander for the proactive, the visible policing part, is on the ground in Tukomsrus. He's held meetings. He's even having another meeting coming up with communities, sometimes with community leaders. So we are always appealing to the community to work together with the police. When it comes to Tukomsrus specifically,
one crime expert believes that putting an end to gangsterism in communities needs a multifaceted approach. Nerea Hlakotza, SABC News, Tukomsrus, West Rand.
Thank you for staying with us. Now on to this. Sasol says that Transnet will make a net payment of 4.3 billion rand to Sasol Oil on or before the 30th of June 2025 in a final settlement of a long-drawn legal dispute. This comes after the High Court found in favor of Sasol Oil and Total Energies over pipeline tariffs from Durban to the Natref refinery. Sasol Oil and Transnet have signed an agreement to settle their respective disputes. Releasing its results for year-end March 2024, Transnet said it made a bigger loss because it had set aside 4.8 billion rand as a result of the High Court judgment. Sasol says according to the June 2024 judgment, Transnet was ordered to make payment to Sasol Oil the amount of 3.9 billion rand plus interest. Transnet had sought to appeal the judgment at the Supreme Court of Appeal, which has been the subject of a reconsideration application before the SCA. However, Sasol Oil and Transnet signed an agreement to settle their respective disputes, which became effective on 23rd May 2025, having met all suspensive conditions. Applications for the recognition of Khoi-San traditional leaders close on Thursday this week, with threats to take the matter to court already been made by Khoi-San leaders because they claim that the requirements for the recognitions are unfair compared to those of other cultural communities like Amaxhosa and Zulu nations.
38 submissions were received from the various Khoi-San communities, mostly from the Western and Eastern Cape. Proving eligibility was an extensive process and included signatures and evidence of promoting cultural practices, among others. Government recognizes the Nama, Griqua, San, Korana and the Cape Khoi as among the communities who can seek recognition.
I've obtained about 37,000 signatures. How it works is my community filled in an application form to become a member. And on that membership form, they acknowledge me that I'm the leader. Now they complete the form, they sign the form, and I sign the form afterwards.
Other leaders say the process was unfair, leading them not to apply for recognition.
I did not apply for that positions because, in my opinion, the leadership positions in the Nama community are typically determined through traditional processes. And we must respect the traditional, cultural, and historical processes of the communities.
Legal action is on the horizon.
What we have decided, we are going to the Constitutional Court for a declaratory order so that the Constitutional Court can declare now already, since this piece of legislation is before Parliament, that the Constitutional Court must come out clearly and declare the anomalies within this piece of legislation.
Government says once applications close on Thursday, a commission seized with investigating the claims will start its work, hoping to recognize Khoi-San traditional leaders in this financial year. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Kimberley, Northern Cape.
The South African women's football team, Banyana, is grateful for the opportunities to play warm-up matches ahead of the defense of its Women's Africa Cup of Nations title in Morocco in July. Previously, there was an outcry from the team over the lack of opportunities ahead of major events.
Banyana's preparations for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations are on track. South Africa will be aiming to successfully defend the title they won in 2022.
Over the years, there was a challenge of fully preparing for big tournaments, but this time around things have changed. Thanks to Sasol, thanks to SAFA for helping and making sure that each and every FIFA window we get to play.
The 22-player squad is a blend of experience and youth, while some players make a welcome return from an assortment of injuries.
It's also about performance, because the performance will bring you the result, because it's all about being ready for WAFCON, that's the really important thing here.
The team also boosts overseas-based players such as Jermaine Siopesengwe, Amohela Mutawe and Hilda Magaya.
We know that it's going to be tough, honestly, going to WAFCON and being the defending champions. But I think as a team, we have to take that in our stride and go and defend our title, which is the most important thing for us.
Banyana will play against Botswana on Wednesday and Zambia next week on Tuesday. Both matches will be played at the Lucas Moripe Stadium in Atteridgeville, kicking off at 3 p.m. Vincent Tura, SABC News, Atteridgeville in Pretoria.
Time now to check out the latest weather forecast. Stay tuned.
Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at what to expect weather-wise for tonight as well as tomorrow. Clear over the central, northern and northeastern parts with a cold front just moving along the southern coastline. With it, some isolated showers and rain over the southern parts of the Western Cape as well as the Eastern Cape. Tomorrow, that first cold front has moved through, leaving behind it some isolated showers and rain over the western and southern parts of the Eastern Cape and along the coastal regions of KwaZulu-Natal, stretching into the adjacent interior. It will, however, be scattered over the eastern coastline of the Eastern Cape and then fine through the central, northern as well as the northeastern parts of the country. Overnight temperatures in Bloemfontein and Bethlehem down to 1 degree, 9 in Cape Town, 13 in Gqeberha, East London, down to 15. Tomorrow, expecting to peak at 19, 18 in Mthatha, 21 is your high in Port St. John's and in Durban, at 24 in Appington and Calvinia. Springbok peaking at 23. It will be a cold day in Bethlehem with 16. Ermelo at 17, 5 in Johannesburg, expecting a maximum of 19. And then on to Wednesday, another cold front making its way. Clear skies ahead of it over the central and western parts. Partly cloudy in places over the southeastern, eastern and northeastern parts with showers and rain along the coastal regions of KwaZulu-Natal. And then again along that southwestern coastline and the adjacent interior. Temperature-wise, expected to be cool to warm throughout the country. That's your weather. Good night.
Well, that concludes our time together this evening. Much gratitude for joining us. Until next time, it's good night and God bless.